Social media giant Facebook has banned news links on its platform in Australia because of a law forcing tech giants to pay for journalism. Politicians in the country are considering forcing digital businesses to reach pay-for-news agreements with media companies in a so-called news media bargaining. The code would create an arbitration panel to set a price for news in situations where Google and Facebook do not reach deals with media businesses whose original journalism they. In a shock move, Facebook, co-founded by CEO Mark Zuckerberg, announced on Wednesday that publishers in the country would be banned from sharing or viewing news on the platform from Australia or from anywhere. William Easton, managing director at Facebook Australia and New Zealand, said, in response to Australia's proposed new media bargaining law, Facebook will restrict publishers and people in Australia from sharing or viewing Australian and international. The proposed law fundamentally misunderstands the relationship between our platform and publishers who use it to share news. It has left us facing a stark choice: attempt to comply with a law that ignores the realities of this relationship, or stop allowing news content on our services. And with a heavy heart, we are choosing the latter. Facebook said the changes also mean that international publishers can continue to publish news content on Facebook, but links and posts cannot be viewed or shared by Australia. Meanwhile, its international community will not be able to view or share Australian news content. Media giant News Corp has already announced it has struck a deal with Google to pay it for news as Australian politicians debate amended legislation to create. Mr. Easton said Facebook and other US technology businesses like Google have fundamentally different relationships. He added, Google search is inextricably intertwined with news, and publishers do not voluntarily provide their. On the other hand, publishers willingly choose to post news on Facebook, as it allows them to sell more subscriptions, grow their audiences and increase advertising revenue. Last year Facebook generated around 5.1 billion free referrals to Australian publishers, Mr. Easton claimed, worth an estimated £227 million. He said the social media giant receives a minimal business gain from news, which makes up less than 4% of content users see on their newsfeed. Journalism is important to a democratic society, which is why we built dedicated, free tools to support news organizations around the world in innovating their content for online audiences, he said. Mr. Easton claimed the proposed legislation seeks to penalize Facebook for content it didn't take or ask for. He said the company is prepared to launch Facebook News in Australia to significantly increase our investments with local publishers, but would only do so with the right rules. In commenting on developments in Australia, Ian Murray, executive director of the Society of Editors, said, "This is really unfortunate, and it is always the public, not the media, that ultimately loses out when the delivery of news is blocked in this way. The lesson to be learned is that it is best to strive to reach amicably." Here in the UK, we have seen Facebook and Google recently reach agreements with UK publishers and news organizations to pay for content under license. No doubt there will be further negotiations on how news providers such as publishers and broadcasters can be properly compensated for their work when it is reproduced on the digital platforms. But while this evolves, it is essential the public are not denied access to news and information.